406.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the 411 406. My name is Mr. Chewie, and I am joined once again by my brother from another mother, Mr. Pip. How are you, sir?
Ho, 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 my friend, and welcome to the holiday edition of the 411 from 406. Very excited to be here. How are you?
I'm good, man. It's been actually we did pretty good. Let's see when the last time we recorded. So this is going to be episode number 104. Episode number 103 was recorded. Let me check on November 20th. So we're killing it. We're like way less than a month in between. So
Yeah.
that's pretty good for us.
I think it's great. I don't know if we're going to get another one in before Christmas, so might as well
Probably not.
see what we can do. I mean, yeah, the way things have been going, it would be tough, but yeah, what's happening though? How are things going on your side?
Things are good. Things are good. So Grayson came home from college yesterday so he'll be home for a month. So he's done with his first semester of college, which is awesome. By all accounts, he did very well. We haven't seen a grade card yet, but I have no reason to believe he's lying to me when he tells me he's done well. So yeah. I'm really excited for him. So that makes him 1/8 of the way done with college, which is kind of scary.
Jesus Christ, man, slow down already.
Yeah,
that's nuts.
It is. And let's see, I think Crew and Link probably have another 2 weeks. Actually, Crew's got finals next week, I think, and then he's done. And I got I'm off tomorrow, which is cool. I've only got 3 days next week, and then I'm done until like January 5th.
Wow, that's nice.
I'm really excited about that. We're going to Cancun for several days. We'll actually be there over the new year. So I'm really excited about that.
What are you going to do while you're there?
I'm going to eat, drink, and be merry. We are Larry and Kathy are awesome enough to take us on this trip, and so we're going down there. We're hanging out with them. We got an all-inclusive place down in Cancun. I cannot wait.
Nice,
it's going to be awesome. Yeah,
Larry, friend of the show, really.
Yes,
that's awesome. That's super cool. If you get a chance, and I'm not sure where you're staying, where you're going to be, or any of that stuff, but I would definitely recommend visiting the island of La Isla Mujeres, which is right off the coast of Cancun. I went there once. The wife and I went there before she was the wife, and spent a long weekend there, and it was absolutely gorgeous. A small little island, one of those you can take your golf cart and just drive around the perimeter of it. It's really cool, a super fun little place, some good food down there. It's about a 20-minute ferry ride from the coast, so it's completely isolated from Cancun. But it was really cool. It was really neat.
That's awesome. Yeah, I couldn't even tell you honestly where we're staying. So I'll let you know though. We will be there over New Year's Eve, which is kind of cool. And it'll be nice to get out of the frigid temperatures of Cleveland. I mean, it's been, I think Sunday and Monday this week were a high of 17, and we've got snow, and yeah, we are in the midst of winter already, which is fine. This is what you get when you live in Northeast Ohio, but
sure,
it doesn't make it any easier ever. Let's see. I also had some minor surgery today, so if you see me squirming, I had a cyst on my back removed, and it was totally benign, but it was I ended up getting like 11 or 12 stitches, and so if I kind of turn wrong, it kind of pulls the stitches a little bit. So
Thanks, man. This is the first time hearing about it.
I mean, because it really is not. It's just a non-issue. I've had it for probably 20 years, and there's nothing. It's completely benign. It doesn't hurt. It never bothered me, and it just got to the point where like Amanda could see it through my t-shirt, And she was like, get that removed. And so I did. So that's all.
Fair
Yeah.
enough.
So it's to say surgery is not even really fair. I mean, it was in the dermatologist's office for all of 40 minutes today. So,
Yeah.
but and I don't know. How about you guys? How are things on the Indiana side of things?
Things are pretty good. Just like you guys kind of wrapping up the year, kids will be out of school here, I think in about a week or so. I don't, unfortunately, have the time off, or I'm just not using it really. Just trying to make sure we have coverage at work for the remainder of the year. So, aside from a day or two here and there, I'm not really taking any time off. But I mean, that's fine. I usually do over the holidays, but no real push to do that. We're not really traveling or going anywhere, so we're going to keep it kind of local, which is good. But yeah, I mean everybody's doing all right. I don't think our temperatures are quite as frigid as yours, but also they suck and I hate them. And so we're just trying to kind of crawl through this winter and try to avoid all the sickness we can. I'm trying to fight through a cough myself, so I'll try to mute myself as much as possible before I go into a coughing fit. But I mean, otherwise, can't really complain, man. There's nothing much going on.
That's now. Will you be busy at work over the holidays? Like, do you have a slowed, like just in general, do things slow down?
Yeah, definitely do.
Okay.
So, I mean, I don't know if I've really talked about it on here, but I work for an IT company, a managed service provider, cloud provider, and this time of year, we're typically in a change control moratorium. So, we're not making any adjustments to our infrastructure that aren't absolutely necessary. We're not really making any changes on behalf of our clients either. Well, I'm sorry, we are for sure, but everything is much more heavily scrutinized and we don't make any unnecessary changes, especially to our shared infrastructure. So that, just the overall reduction of those changes, reduces the risk of any unintended impact and things like that. So as a result, and I think just because our clients are all kind of checking out little by little throughout the holidays, everything's kind of slowing down. Unfortunately, because, I'm a senior manager over an entire fleet of data centers. The thing that is the most critical for my job this time of year is to make sure we're covered. We have physical coverage in the data centers because we have to be manned 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And this particular time of year is especially challenging because everyone wants to use the remainder of their time off, which is certainly understandable. But when everybody's trying to do it at the same time, it makes for challenges with coverage and things like that. So we're having to pay a lot of overtime and get a lot of people shifted around. We also just happen to have a handful of open positions, which is unfortunate this time of year. So it makes it even more difficult to do that. But I mean, we scrape through. We always manage to get by no matter what. So yeah, that's kind of what work looks like this time of year, but hopefully it'll be nice and calm. It's a good time to get things done, get caught up on some documentation and catching up on emails and all that stuff because we won't have as many client requests during this period.
Now, will you be able to be at home, or are you going in the office during that time?
Yeah, I will be at home. I work primarily from home, which I don't typically prefer, but it kind of works with our schedule because my wife has to be in the office. So I will work from home most of the time, but she'll have some time off over the holidays. And if the weather's not too bad, then I might travel in the office just to get out of the house because that'll be nice to do. But I have a lot of flexibility when it comes to where I work from, which is amazing. That's one of my favorite parts of the job is that they're not too particular about that. As long as I'm online, getting my work done, then that's really the most important part.
That's awesome. Did you have you been watching any football lately?
Me? No. What's going on? Any
I,
headlines?
you,
Anything
no,
worth
not
talking about?
not really. It's been kind of a
Not
boring
really.
season. It's been kind of a boring season.
Jesus Christ. This is a very emotional time of year right now for me. There's a lot going on. I had the great fortune of going to a friend's house on Saturday of last weekend to watch the epic Indiana versus Ohio State Big Ten championship game that was played here in downtown Indianapolis. And so excited to be a part of history. And by a part of it, I mean, I watched it on TV. The Indiana football Hoosiers are the Big Ten champions for the first time ever. Outright Big Ten champions. Undisputed heavyweight Big Ten champions. I'm so excited. I'm sure you watched the game. I'd love to get your thoughts on it. What did you think? I mean, you're in Ohio, so I know you're not necessarily an Ohio State fan, but what was your experience? Tell me about watching the game.
So yeah, I have to set the record straight. Not only am I not necessarily an Ohio State, I am not even remotely a little bit an Ohio State fan. I never have been. Yeah. So I
Yeah.
am absolutely living in enemy territory. Now I will watch Ohio State when they're not playing Indiana, just because they're always on here, right? And it's very rare that I root against them, but no, I am not an Ohio State fan. And it was funny. So Amanda and I watched that game, and we watch almost nothing live ever. We watched that game live, and it was it was amazing. It was amazing to watch. I am still shell shocked just at how good this season and this team has been. I was I won't say that I was surprised. I wouldn't have been surprised if we lost.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I thought that game was going to go one of a couple ways. I thought either Indiana would win a close one, which they ended up doing. I thought I thought Ohio State was going to kill us. I
Yeah.
really
That's
didn't
fair.
think that there was, and if you watch our first offensive play where Mendoza just absolutely got creamed.
No, yeah.
I mean, I thought for sure he was concussed and was going to be done. Now, of course, when one Mendoza goes down, we get the other one. But luckily he was out for one play, and that dude played a hell of a game against
Yes.
arguably the one of the best defenses I've seen in my lifetime, not just recent. I mean, the Ohio State defense is legit,
Yeah.
and he had a game against them, and when Ohio State missed that field goal, I'm going, how did that just happen? And it just started feeling like stuff was kind of going our way, and I don't know. I was not comfortable until the very, very, very end, right?
Yeah.
Because they had a chance, and it was awesome. It was awesome to see. It was awesome to be a part of. I proud member of Hoosier Nation for sure. It
Yeah.
was amazing. I'm glad I got to live through it. You know what I mean?
I
Like that
know.
sounds silly. That sounds silly, but I mean, arguably, I never thought I would see the Indiana football Hoosiers be like this
No way.
ever, right?
Never.
So,
No, it was amazing. It was such a fun game. I was actually watching the game at the house of a former IU college basketball player, so we had all kinds of really fun stuff going on. A lot of people exclusively cheering for IU. I think the thing that I liked and appreciated the most about that game is that we didn't win on a fluke. It wasn't like a single play, a single call. It wasn't any one thing that gave that game to us. It was just pure grit. It was fortitude. It was IU pushing harder than Ohio State. And, of course, I wake up the next day and hear all these people saying, oh, well, Ohio State wasn't going to bring their A game because they're not going to show all their cards in a Big Ten championship when they're going to play for the national championship and all this stuff. And I don't know. I don't know that I believe that because the defense was sure playing as hard as they could. And I do think that they have more explosive weapons on the Ohio State offensive side of the ball. So I think I don't remember the wide receiver's name, but he's like one of the best players in the country. If they'd have kept chucking it up to him, I think he eventually would have done something that would have created some problems for IU. But they kept putting so much pressure on the quarterback, which he hasn't fucking seen all year. Like there's a lot of arguments around people or different teams and their schedules and the strength of schedules, and Ohio State's definitely one of those that had a shit schedule this year, like completely worthless, other than Texas, I mean, there really wasn't much there, in my opinion, to speak for. So I think that IU was one of the first teams all year to really put some pressure on the quarterback. And that showed. And when he got flustered and had to move out of the pocket, he didn't make great decisions. And I think that was such a huge part of it. But I was just so glad that it was a grind. It wasn't like this. There's nobody that can argue that IU was the better team that day. And that's just incredibly satisfying, especially after the season, because I know that we were all sort of watching behind our fingers, right? We're just waiting for that ball to drop where we get absolutely obliterated, and then all the sports commentators on ESPN start railing us because we knew they weren't for real. Like every one of those guys are just waiting for an opportunity to expose us for the frauds that we are. And I just don't think we are. For once in our lifetime, I don't think that IU is that fraudulent team. Now, does that mean they're going to win everything? Doesn't guarantee anything. And I'm still not really confident that we're going to get through 4 more games or 3 more games in the playoffs. But if they lost the first game of the playoffs that they have to play, I would still consider this an unprecedented success for this football program. And to your point, just to be here to witness that is just the coolest thing. It's so much fun.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you. I am not. I'm not. I won't say I'm not confident, but I'm not confident that we're gonna like breeze through these games, right? I mean,
Right.
even our first game is either gonna be Alabama or Oklahoma. Alabama just got their doors blown off, but and Oklahoma's a good team, and so is like every team left, with the exception of
Right.
maybe Tulane, and what's the other one?
James Madison.
James Madison. I would not be worried about those games, but hey, shit happens, right? I mean, it happens all the time. That's why you play the game. So,
Yeah.
um, I'll tell you right now, I don't want to play Ohio State again. You know what I
No.
mean? I
Oh,
don't.
God, no.
Yeah.
Of course not. But you hit on something that I think is really important and a very unique sensation for Indiana Hoosier football fans, which is I'm not necessarily confident we're going to win it all, but I'm not scared. Like, I'm not going up
Right.
against any team in this bracket and saying, we're fucked. Like, I'm not doing that anymore. I mean, think about here's the way I thought about it this week. And I haven't heard anybody else say this, so I'm going to take credit for it in case anybody rips it off. But I feel like we're kind of playing with house money right now because nobody expected us to have the season we have. I mean, think of all the firsts that we're experiencing this season: the first undefeated football season, the first Big Ten championship, likely by next weekend, the first Heisman Trophy winner to come out of Indiana University. I don't remember the last time IU football, if they ever have, beat a number one team in the nation. The first time we became the number one team in the nation. So, like, this season is an unprecedented success if it ends now. And so, like, we've got nothing to lose, which makes, and we're the best team, or arguably one of the best teams in the playoffs, which makes us really fucking dangerous. I think that that's
Hmm.
really cool. So they could take that momentum as because people still don't think we're going to win this thing. So they could take all that momentum and just kind of carry it through. And I think they're going to go far. I don't know how far they'll go. I really have no way to predict it, but I'm just, I just think that they're still under the radar, the number one team in there. And I think they're under the radar because you've got your powerhouses of Ohio State and Alabama and these kind of teams that are still in there. And these other teams like Miami and Texas A&M who have played really well. I still don't think anybody's really counting on IU to do anything. And that really works well in our favor.
I agree. It's going to be an amazing um, next several weeks. So our next game is not till New Year's Day. There are there's a it's not this week. It's next weekend. Is the first round, if I remember correctly.
I think so.
Here, let me
I
see if I
haven't
can
looked at the
find
schedule.
yeah. Let me see if I can find the bracket here real quick. Excuse me. Let's see here. So yeah, so actually, yes, I was right. So the Friday, December 19th, which is next week, will be the first round. That's Alabama versus Oklahoma on Friday night. So we would play the winner of that game. And then Saturday, there's three
Hmm.
games. You've got Miami at Texas Tech, Tulane at Ole Miss, and James Madison at Oregon. So if I'm a betting man, which I'm not, I'm going to probably pick Alabama to beat Oklahoma, Texas A&M to beat Miami, Ole Miss to beat Tulane, and Oregon to absolutely destroy James Madison would be
Yeah.
my guess. So that would mean Indiana versus Alabama, and then Ohio State would then play the winner of Tulane and Ole Miss. So they'd play Ole Miss in my. Oh no, I'm sorry. They play the winner of Texas A&M Miami. So they play Texas A&M.
Right.
So there's some really good games coming up over the next 3 or 4 weeks for sure.
Yeah, there are. There could be some better ones, in my opinion, but there are some
Okay,
really good games.
so let's talk Notre Dame. I'm guessing that's what you were referring to, and I'm guessing you're referring to the fact that they uh, decided not to play a bowl game because they got left out of the rankings.
Hmm.
So the floor is yours. Talk to me, Goose. Tell me your thoughts on Notre Dame. We texted a little bit about this, but I want to get into it a little bit.
We did text a little bit, and I'll be honest, I have sort of run the gamut of feeling both sides of this discussion. And I was really anxious to talk about this, and I just hope I can spit out everything that kind of went through my brain in the last couple of days because there have been a lot of people who have had a lot of opinions about this situation. And as a, I won't say a diehard Notre Dame football fan, but I'll say a lifelong Notre Dame football fan. Um, I guess what I will first say is that the given the existing structure and the way everything is put in place, whether you call them rules or guidelines or whatever, the way that everything is set up, I don't think it's totally unfair that Notre Dame got left out because I understand that Miami, Miami and Notre Dame have basically the same record, but Miami owns the edge because they beat them in the first game of the season. It was at Miami. It was a very close game, but nonetheless, Miami won that. So if it's between Miami and Notre Dame, as much as this fucking pains me to say so, Miami deserves to be in the playoffs. Alabama has 3 losses and they're in the playoffs. They had a much stronger strength of schedule. So I think that's a fair argument. But also, the teams they lost to were not good teams, and the same with Miami. So I, at the end of the day, I don't necessarily have an issue with Notre Dame being left out as the rules are now. But I think the rules are fucking terrible and the system is broken. And I think that's why Notre Dame is not participating in this because a couple weeks before the playoffs get locked in, is it ESPN or whoever it is releases this bracket that sort of ranks where everybody is. And Notre Dame, I think, was maybe 10th or something like that when these brackets got released. And Notre Dame had a very good they started with 2 losses and they had a really good remainder of the season with all wins. Now, granted, they didn't play anybody super strong. They did play a couple ranked teams, but they weren't to the level of the SEC. Absolutely acknowledge that. But Notre Dame started off, I think, 10th in this ranking system, and then slowly creeped down, regardless of the fact that they won. And then at the
Mm-hmm.
very end, they got booted out of the playoffs, even though they continued to win. So I understand their concerns about being pissed about that because all they did was win at the end and they got left out.
Yep.
Um, I also recognize, and I don't think this is even subjective. I think this is very objective. Notre Dame is better than half the teams in the college football playoffs right now. So
Mm-hmm.
if the goal is to get the 12 best teams in there, which it's not set up to do right now, but if that's the goal, then this decision makes no sense whatsoever. Um, I also acknowledge that this is a bad look for Notre Dame. Like the optics on this are bad because the people who don't take the time to understand what this story is are going to think that Notre Dame has, and I hate this phrase, but taken their ball and gone home. I You can make that argument that that's what they've done, but I think it's deeper than that. And the people who hate Notre Dame, the Stephen A. Smiths of the world, the god awful Paul Feinbaums of the world, and even
Oh
Cam
my
Newton.
God.
I fucking hate Paul Feinbaum. I think that guy is just an absolute piece of garbage. And even Cam Newton's coming out and throwing shit at him. This is fodder for people who hate Notre Dame, and I get it. Like, I totally get that. If you were to take this situation and put it in Ohio State, I would be throwing them shit too. Like, I totally understand that. I would think I would be objective enough to know that I was being biased, and I am biased against for Notre Dame because I've been such a long time fan. But Notre Dame playing in the Pop Tarts Bowl, which is literally the bowl that they were getting invited to, does them absolutely no good. It benefits that university zero. So them opting out of that, I don't have a problem with that. I know that people think that that's really stupid. First of all, there's at least 9 other teams that have opted out of bowls this year. Nobody's talking about them, obviously, because Notre Dame is this huge institution that everybody sort of either loves to love or loves to hate. So, I've had very mixed feelings because I realize that Notre Dame may not be handling this very well, but I also recognize that I don't have a problem at all with what they're doing because it's kind of bullshit. The what's being done here. Like, the system obviously has no desire to put the best teams in the playoffs, which seems really counterintuitive to me. And the college football playoffs or the NCAA or whoever it is have basically relegated bowl games to glorified exhibition games. They don't mean anything anymore to anybody. And if Notre Dame were to go to the Pop Tarts Bowl, half of their team wouldn't even play. I mean, it wouldn't happen, right? All the seniors would sit, or I'm sorry, not all the seniors would sit, but anybody who had any pro aspirations, which is a fair number of people on a Notre Dame football team, they're not going to play in that game. Why would they risk injury before they go to the pros to play BYU? It doesn't make any sense. So I think deep down inside, my rant here is that Notre Dame is doing this to say fuck you to the college football playoffs and fuck you, ESPN. I'm not going to make you money by going to play the Pop Tarts Bowl so that everybody watches your program when it doesn't benefit us in any way. And people can hate on Notre Dame all they want for not joining a conference. But if for all those people that hate Notre Dame, if they took themselves and they put themselves in the shoes of Notre Dame, if they said, okay, all of a sudden I'm an employee of Notre Dame or I'm responsible for what happens in that football program, nobody is going to make a different decision than that. Like, let's not pretend for a second this is about football. It's not about football. It's a business decision. It's about capitalism. And as much as it would turn my stomach to see anybody else doing that, I would say that's fair. I why would Notre Dame join a conference? It makes no sense. You know how much money they would lose by being in the ACC in football? Yeah, maybe they'd make the college playoffs, but that NBC deal goes away. And that $20 million that they made last year for making the finals that they didn't have to share with anybody else, they'd have to share with an entire conference. And you can hate on them all you want to for that, but if you were a part of that, if you were responsible for the financial well-being of that university, you would 100% make that same decision. So I've kind of gone back and forth. I get it. People who don't like Notre Dame are going to hate him even more because of this, and there's nothing they can do about that. And they have set themselves up for everything that they're getting right now. Any of the criticism, any of the praise, they own it all, 100%. But if it comes down to who do you want in the playoffs, do you want the best teams or do you want these James Madisons and Tulanes, these ridiculous teams that are going to get absolutely smeared in the first round? I think Notre Dame has a solid case for why the fuck the Pop Tart Bowl matters to anybody, because it really doesn't to them. So that's my rant, but I'm curious to know your thoughts, because you've probably had a couple days to see all the shit that's been spewed about these guys.
Yeah, for sure. So I am not a Notre Dame hater, but I'm also far from a Notre Dame lover. I do not consider myself a Notre Dame fan at not even a little bit. I have several friends, I put kind of in that super fan mode. Eric Rosenfeld, who he's a
Yeah.
huge Notre Dame fan. My cousin Danny is a massive, lifelong Notre Dame fan. And I basically kind of sent, when all this went down, I sent the three of you kind of the same text, like to say, hey, what are your thoughts? And we had very similar. The three of you had kind of very similar conversations. All three of you are, while you are massive Notre Dame fans, you can see both sides of it, which I really give you guys a lot of credit for, because there's a lot of Notre Dame fans that aren't seeing both sides, right? They're not
Sure.
seeing the good with the bad or the bad with the good. So um I agree with almost everything that you said there. I do really think it's a bad look for Notre Dame.
Yeah.
I understand why they're taking the stance that they are. I wish they wouldn't have taken that stance though, just because it does as a parent, you kind of tell your kids, hey, you start something, you finish something, this. And so that, yeah, there is that feeling of taking your ball and going home, not
Yeah.
getting what you want. And so,
Hmm.
well, I'm going to have a tantrum and not do it again. I'm not suggesting that the tantrum isn't warranted, because if Indiana were in the same shoes, they'd be doing the same thing and they would be warranted as well. And I think you make a great point. If this was Ohio State or Michigan or Miami, or yeah, they would be doing the same
Yeah.
thing.
I'd be laughing my ass off for
Right.
sure.
Right. I think the one difference between Notre Dame and those other teams, though, and you touched on it, is the fact that they're not in the conference. And so I think that does put an asterisk on them, or put a little bit of a different target on them,
Yeah, sure.
because you can say, and I think it's probably a fair statement. You could say this year that if they went and they played a 13th game, win or lose, I think they would have been in, you know, and and again, I understand why they're not in a conference. I understand they probably will never be in a conference, because to your point, it doesn't make any financial sense for them to be in the conference. Yeah, I don't know. That's a long way of saying I agree with almost everything that you said there. Um, Joel Klatt, who in my mind is the greatest uh, and college football mind out there, he had a really interesting take that I hadn't really thought of, and he said there are guys on that team that are going to regret this decision. There are guys on that team that do not have NFL aspirations, and they have basically given away their last game, right? They have artificially ended their season, ended their playing career, and there's going to be a time in the future when they're disappointed that they didn't take the opportunity to play in that last bowl game.
Hmm.
I put a lot of credence in his opinion, because he was an NCAA quarterback, and so like he was an athlete. But again, I hadn't thought about it from that perspective, from the player's perspective, because the statement that I read, and I'm assuming it's correct, was from Notre Dame. They basically said, "Hey, we made this decision as a team." And I'm
Yes.
sure they did. And I'm sure they did. And I'm sure all the guys in that locker room were behind that decision 100%. But I don't know if they all truly believed it, or they were just kind of caught up in a moment and it was an emotional decision, or this, that, and the other thing. So,
Well, yeah,
um,
here's the part that I feel like is really counterintuitive, because they're not going to recruit anybody who would ever say, you know what, if you never let me play my last game, I'm cool with that. Like, that's not who
right,
Notre Dame, that's not who anybody would recruit. They're going to recruit somebody that says, I will play under gunfire, I will play
right.
under over an earthquake. Like, I guarantee, and this is I feel like this is why I can say that I'm being objective, but allegedly Notre Dame's coach, Marcus Freeman, got with all the captains, and all the captains agreed that this was the right decision to do. But I would be hard pressed to think that the captains truly spoke for everybody on that team. There's no way there wasn't a senior on that team who didn't want to play that last game, especially if he's not going to the pros.
Hmm.
So while I appreciate the sentiment, and it's the smart thing to do to say, yes, we cleared this with the guys and the guys feel this way. And I'm also relatively confident they're getting paid for it, right? The guys that were going to play in the bowl game are probably getting paychecks for it, which is 100% legal with NIL,
Hmm.
right? Notre Dame can play those players and say, "Hey, here's your paycheck that you would have gotten. By the way, if you could please not tweet this out, like your
Right.
displeasure with this,
Right.
that'd be super cool. Maybe sign an NDA. I don't know, something like that." I wouldn't put it past an organization like Notre Dame to do that, or any organization that is
Right.
as profit focused as them. So I think that that's a big sticking point for them as well. Now, if the entire team really truly feels that way, then okay, that's great. I have a hard time believing that everybody was on board with that decision. And
You
if
know,
one person wasn't, then I feel like that needs to be a longer conversation. It doesn't necessarily mean you have to play the game. And again, we all know that most of those players wouldn't have played that game anyways. But we're also talking about this as if it's about football, and it's not. It just
it's not.
isn't. The
No.
sad the sad news is that this is a business, and not just Notre Dame, but college football in general. Notre Dame especially, because of the way they postured themselves and because of the way that they've managed to turn this institution into an incredibly profitable institution, despite the fact that they haven't done shit in almost 40 years in terms of winning championships. They are still one of the most profitable college football institutions in the entire planet. Um, so there's a lot to lose there. So it's like I do get both sides of it, but the optics are bad. This is the ultimate example of confirmation bias, in my opinion. If you want to hate Notre Dame, you can find ways to hate them based off of this. If you want to love Notre Dame and you want to respect them for standing up for themselves, you can go that route too. I choose to see both sides of it. I think that they've made some statements that are pretty farcical, if you will. Like I think the AD came out and said something like they had one of the greatest last 10
The
games in the
10
history of
games.
them. I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, all right, that Syracuse game was fucking epic, right? We had 21 points in 2.5 minutes without the offense even touching the ball. That was
Right.
amazing. I will give you all that credit. But look at the strength of schedule. Like, come on. Like, have a little bit of like I would have been fine if they just said we're not going to play the bowl and then just left it at that. But the fact that they got to be all butthurt about the fact that they had a shitty schedule and got left out is I don't know. You have to. I think you should have spun it a little bit better than
Yeah.
that.
To that point, I think it was Joel Klatt again. He had a really great comeback to that because he said kind of the same thing that you did. He was like, "That's a ridiculous statement to make." And oh no, you know what? It was Jim Rome, I think. And he
Yes,
goes,
yeah, I heard that too.
he goes, they haven't even had the best 10 games in the state of Indiana the last 10 games.
Right?
He's talking
No,
about
that's a great comment. That is a
yeah.
great fucking point right there.
Yeah.
It,
Because you look at IU's last 10 games, they beat Penn State, they beat Ohio State, they beat, uh,
right.
yeah, and they beat
Yeah.
Oregon. So yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I mean, look, I love Notre Dame. I'm always going to love Notre Dame. I don't love the way this is being handled, but I think that they have a point. They're just not making their point as cleanly as they should.
Yeah.
But I will say that I think if there's any team in college football that can make a stand and actually
It's
impact change in
it's
the
Notre
college
Dame.
football playoffs, it's
It
Notre
is.
Dame.
Yeah.
So we may all be taking a giant dump on them right now, but we could be thanking them in a couple of years because I do think it will get them to reconsider how they do things, whether or not it's for the best, for Notre Dame or not. I think we could see a change in how we do this system.
For sure. And somebody made a really good point and I didn't look into it, but I think what they were saying was that the big villain in all of this, for lack of a better term, my words, not theirs, was the ACC and the way they do their tie breaking. Because
Right.
in the ACC championship game, they had a 5-loss Duke team
Right.
that won the ACC championship. And because of that, that and again you can probably Google it and find, but because of that particular issue laid into motion a bunch of other things that
Yeah.
ultimately led to Notre Dame not being in.
Right.
The other thing that I thought was really interesting that I had seen was, and again I think this was Joel Klatt again. He said if that ESPN show for the last 3 or 4 weeks had never been out, right? And all we saw was the end of season rankings and Notre Dame was left on the outside, I don't think they would have had nearly the issue with it that
Yeah,
they
maybe.
did, right?
Yeah,
Because
that's fair.
I think what they have an issue with is the fact that they were quote unquote above Alabama at one point
And Miami.
and Miami, and Alabama got boathoused in their championship game. Notre
Right.
Dame didn't play, and Alabama still got in, and so
Yeah, no,
so
that's
that was
true.
yeah,
I
yeah.
think one of the interesting things, and I don't remember who said this, I saw this on an Instagram reel, but it made a lot of sense to me, is that I think towards the end of the season, the college football playoff committee probably realized, oh shit, we're going to have a problem, but we'll, I think we'll figure it out. Notre Dame and Miami will both get in because Notre Dame and Miami were kind of the ones that were inching close to each other. And then when Alabama got in, they're like,
Mhm.
oh fuck, we gotta kick one of these teams out. And it can't be Miami because Miami owns the head to head,
They
which
beat
the
Notre
head to
yeah.
head shouldn't necessarily be the end all be all. But in this case, because everything else is so close, I mean, you could make a, you could, I suppose, make an argument that, yeah, Notre Dame did lose 2 games. Miami lost 2 games. Notre Dame lost 2 games to 2 teams that are in the playoffs. Miami lost two
Mhm.
games to shit teams that they
Yes.
had no business being ranked as high as they were. But because they had the head to head, that's how they got in. Now, I'm not arguing that. Like, I'm okay with the decision that was made because it was so close. But I think Notre Dame's got a good argument. And the fact that they were told, yep, you're going to make it. Yep, you're going to make it. Yep, you're going to make it. Oh, sorry, you didn't make it. And all they
Right.
did was win. I understand why that doesn't make sense. So I don't know. I don't thank God IU is number one team in the nation. I don't have to obsess over this, but I do think it's really interesting. And it certainly exposes all the people who really, really hate Notre Dame, like the Michael Wilbons and the Stephen A. Smiths of the world, and the loud talkers, and of course the Paul Feinbaums and all that. And yeah, it is what it is. And I'd be remiss if I didn't mention this. And this doesn't help the optics of Notre Dame either. This is actually maybe the most cringeworthy thing is they have some kind of clause that gets them into the playoffs no matter what next year, as long as they finish in the top 12. I don't even know what
So
that means or how they do that, but that's apparently a thing that has been confirmed by the athletic director. Like, as long as they finish in the top 12, they have a guaranteed spot in the playoffs. And now teams are saying, we're going to freeze out Notre Dame. We're not even going to
mhm.
play them. And I got to be honest, I don't have a problem with that. I don't have a problem with teams freezing out Notre Dame
Yeah.
because that seems like a bullshit clause.
Yeah.
I would be
Well,
really upset about that too. That's skirting the system. I mean, that to me is the most egregious way of skirting the system. Like, if that is way worse to me than joining a conference. Like, in my mind, I
yeah.
don't know. I don't understand all the logistics, but that to me is like, oh God, that makes us look even worse.
Yeah, I do think there has to be there's going to be changes to the way the quote unquote playoffs are done in college football. And I know that we've been having these conversations for what seems like our entire lives, right? I mean, I
Yeah,
can remember a time when, there really wasn't even a quote unquote national championship game, right? This is before the BCS. They were just
yeah,
all bowl games, right? And they had it was a mythical national champion, and so, and the AP poll might say it was, the Miami Hurricanes one year, and in that same year the coaches poll was, Nebraska or whatever. I'm making it up, but
yeah, yeah, yeah.
um, and so you're right. It's all a business. I would really like to see them go to, it's a Division 3. Grayson School is Mount Union. They were ranked number 1 in the country all year in Division 3. Division 3's got like a 40 team playoff. It's amazing, and it's much more similar
Yeah.
to, the sweets, the 64 team that we get in basketball. And Mount Union lost. They lost to John Carroll,
Yep.
and that was a massive upset. But again, it's like when you have that bracket, hey, the best team is, well, not always the best team comes out, but it's like you're the tournament champion, right?
Right. It's hard to
Um,
dispute a tournament champion.
right. You know, I
Yeah.
mean, again, you don't need, and I think this is probably true in basketball too. People don't always say, "Oh yeah, the best team always won," but they're the tournament champion, like they're the national champion.
But it's hard to say that
So,
the best team didn't win. If you win that many games and you
correct.
win the
Yeah.
championship, maybe
Yeah.
you weren't the best team that day,
Going
or maybe
in, or
you are
yeah.
the best.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it is like the best team can still lose, every once
Right.
in a while. But
Right.
the last thing I'll say about Notre Dame, because I kind of shit on him with that whole contract clause thing, you got to shit on the college football playoffs too, right? Because
100%.
who fucking put that deal in front of them, right?
Oh,
Somebody had to do it, but
yeah.
nobody's gonna hold the CFP to task. They're gonna hold Notre Dame to task because everybody hates them, or
Yeah.
so many people hate them. So it's like, why would Notre Dame not sign that deal? Why would they not
Oh,
remain independent?
for
Why would
sure.
they not do all these things that they have done? Because they've been allowed to do it. Like
Hmm.
I'll be honest with you, like I kind of wish they joined a conference just to get this fucking conversation over with. Like
Yeah.
I don't care who it is. They could join whatever conference they want to, but I wish they would do it just so people would stop bitching about it,
Yeah.
because it doesn't make any sense. But anyways, that's my
All right.
rant on Notre Dame football. Better luck next year. This year, freshman quarterback, he had a hell of a year. I
Yep.
think they're going to be tough. I think they're going to do better things, and I don't know. We'll see. But hey,
Yes. Yeah.
I don't care because we've got IU to focus on, and
Yes.
that's amazing. That's great.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. What one last point? I guess the only question becomes like, as long as everybody stays, which they should. That's the kind of the one caveat for them. Like, do they keep their team together? Because I agree, they're absolutely a top 10 team next year if everybody stays. Marcus Freeman's arguably one of the top 5 or 6 coaches in the NCAA, in my opinion. And yeah, and they're going to be a good team next year for sure. So,
I think so.
um,
As long as he's still there, there's a lot of
well,
scuttlebutt right
right.
now that he might skip down and play head coach for the Giants. But I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know if I buy that or not. I think he's got more to do there, so I hope he does.
for sure. Um, Speaking of coaches, NCAA coaches, Sharon Moore at Michigan is no longer
Ooh.
is is
Can
no
I
longer. Yeah,
can I just take a second to say thank you to Michigan for taking some of the focus off of Notre Dame this week, because everybody was just lighting Notre Dame on fire, and we're taking a pretty
yeah.
significant break from that to focus on what the fuck just happened in Ann
I,
Arbor.
so again, I don't. I'm not going to go into, like there was a relationship with the staffer, and then there was holding at knife point, and like just all sorts of weird, bizarre things. He was fired for
Really,
cause, and
really bizarre. Yeah.
really bizarre. And so I, I will say again, I'm not if I'm not a Notre Dame fan and I'm not an Ohio State fan, I'm sure as fuck not a Michigan fan. I hate the Michigan Wolverines. I cannot stand them for a variety of reasons. That being said, I have to say this. I feel really bad for like that situation because it's a bad situation all around. Like there are families that have been ruined. I don't care at all that Michigan football is getting fucked, but they are. They're getting screwed because that right now they've got no coach. The coaching carousel is done,
Yeah.
and I don't know who they're going to slot in there, right?
Well,
Because I mean,
donors are pulling out right now because they're
yeah,
really worried about this situation that's happening. And
yeah,
yeah, I mean, I feel bad for the university, I guess. I don't feel bad for any of the people involved because they're all grown adults that made stupid fucking
sure,
decisions. And, you know,
right,
it'd be one thing if the coach was a single guy who was on the prowl and doing one thing. Not that that would be acceptable, but like the fact that he's married to 3 kids is kind of, I don't know the details. So it's
yeah.
not my place to comment on the sanctity of the decisions that were made. I think the thing that struck me the most was for whatever reason, all of Dave Portnoy's stuff ends up on my feeds, and he's like, "Well, I'm not going to talk about this because that wouldn't be right, and this is Michigan football, and I'm just really proud of the way they're handling this, and it's not right to blow a situation out of control." And I'm like, "Fuck you, dude!" Like, I like him; he's a fun character, but also like, if this was Ohio State, he would be shitting all over it
Oh,
so
yeah,
bad. He likes to pretend like he wouldn't be treating this differently if it were anybody but Michigan, but he's so full of shit. Um, and so that just like drives me nuts. But yeah, this story was crazy, and the things that we're hearing about what happened there is just it's just bananas. And yeah, the university could really suffer because if the donors pull out, then they're not going to get any players, and if they don't get any players, like they could be multiple years before they get back to where they need to be as a powerhouse football team.
Yeah, I can't, and this is I can't help to feel like this is a little bit of karma against that team
Jim Harbaugh,
for,
what? I'm sorry.
well, yeah, for the
Yeah.
fact that they won a national championship while they were cheating. Period. End of story. Like, they were cheating, and they didn't have to vacate that title. They
Nope.
were
The
able
coach skipped
and,
town, and
yeah.
that was it.
And so again, to your point, like, I kind of don't feel bad. Like, that's a little bit of karma coming back. Because to your point, I can very easily see a situation where, they go into next season, and they'll have an assistant coach the playoffs this year. Who knows who they'll get. Maybe they get somebody out of retirement. Who knows? They'll have a coach. But I can very easily see a situation where they get a bunch of people leaving the transfer portal. They're like, fuck this program is fucked. To your point, donors are pulling out. They've got a disaster at the coaching position, and it could send that program into a tailspin for 5-10 years very easily.
Maybe.
It
I don't
could.
know if
It
it
could.
has to be that long, but it could be that long for sure. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what they do. I don't know how they recover from this, but it's it's a pretty messy situation.
So, hey, but we know better than anybody how quick a program can turn around, right? Positive or negative. For
If
us it's positive, but it can
if
go the other way.
yeah,
Yeah,
if IU can go from being one of the worst D1 football teams in the history of the sport to losing one game over a 2 year span, uh, obviously somebody like Michigan can do the same thing. They just
yeah,
have to get the right people in the right spots. So yeah, they'll.
yeah.
I think they'll be fine. And I hate Michigan too. I really do. But I also think college football is much more interesting when Michigan is good. So I
Agreed.
want them to be good. I don't want them to be better than the teams that I like, but I want them to be good for sure.
Yeah. Um. All right. That was a lot of college football. Anything else before we move on to something non-collegiately football ish?
No, I think we've
No.
covered more college football in the last hour than we have in the last 103 podcasts or whatever.
Right. How are we feeling about Philip Rivers wheeling his way
Oh,
onto
Jesus
the
Christ.
field for the Colts?
It's so funny. Like I was having a conversation with somebody at work on I think Tuesday, and they're like, "What are we gonna do for quarterback?" I'm like, "I don't know. They'll probably get that couch potato Philip Rivers off his ass and see what he's capable of." And it was just a stupid joke. And I'll be damned. That evening, the news broke that Philip Rivers is getting a tryout. So I'll be. I'm not a diehard Colts fan. I'm a Colts supporter, but not a fan in the same sense. I hate Philip Rivers. I've never liked Philip Rivers because I'm a Denver Broncos fan, and he
Yeah.
was a prominent foe for the Broncos as the Chargers quarterback. So I've never cared for the guy personally, but he did decent things for Indianapolis. He was a good band-aid, if you will, while they were here. So I don't know. We'll see what happens. So he's 44 years old, I believe,
I
and
he was, I think he was either, was he a freshman when we were seniors, or maybe he came in the
oh
year after.
Christ, are you
It
serious?
was it's
Jesus.
close, right? I mean, do the math. It's close. Yeah.
Yeah, that's nuts. That's really crazy. I mean, I know we're at the age where we're older than all the professional athletes,
Right.
but that really puts it in a very interesting perspective. That's funny.
All right. So speaking of professional athletes that are around our age,
Ooh,
um,
look at that segue. Like a
right? Look at
fucking
that. Yeah.
pro. Well done, sir.
Um, John Cena is having his last match on Saturday evening. How you
Yes.
how you feeling? How you feeling about John Cena being done?
Wow. Um, well, yeah, first of all, apologies for getting in for sneaking the crowd into a wrestling conversation,
Yes.
but we had to do this. I think this is an important thing to talk about because I don't feel like the world really appreciates the world. That's a little hyperbolic, but I, the wrestling community does appreciate how important this is, but John Cena was one of the most prominent figures over the last 23 years in professional wrestling, and he's going to do something that nobody has really ever done, and that is to retire and stay retired. And people have asked me, like, yeah, but he's going to come back. He's going to be at WrestleMania. I'm like, he
I don't
may
think
be
so.
there, but he's not strapping on the jorts. Like, that's not happening. He's not going to get back in the ring. I 100% believe that. I would put a paycheck on the fact that we never see John Cena in a ring again, not wrestling. I really love what's happening right now in terms of all of the adoration and all of the praise and everything that's coming out. I sent you that video today that the WWE put together. It's a really big deal because John Cena has done a lot for this business. He is the ultimate company man, as it goes. And the last year has been up and down to some extent. I will say, if you haven't listened to his interview with Chris Van Vliet, I would not walk but run to go hear that because he talks through a lot of stuff that makes a lot more sense now that he has explained it. And I forgive him for some of the transgressions that I didn't like about the things that have happened in his last year, his this retirement tour that he's doing, specifically the Brock Lesnar match in Indianapolis, which I paid to see. I was not super happy about that, but I get it now. He talked through that whole thing and gave it some context that helped me reconcile what was being done there. And he wasn't, I don't think, totally truthful through that entire interview. There was a lot of conversation around The Rock and Travis Scott that I feel like he kind of swerved. But
Yeah.
I will say that this is a pretty big deal, and I don't think I'll be watching live, unfortunately. But I'm really excited to see this whole program and to just highlight what it means to respect and appreciate John Cena. Like, he hasn't picked according to him, and if you were to believe this, he hasn't picked his opponents at all this year. He did not pick any of his opponents, according to his interview with Chris Van Vliet. And the only thing he has done is he said, "Look, my last appearance, I want it to be guys like Cody Rhodes and people like Becky Lynch, and I want them fighting people that nobody's ever heard of. I want the up and comers to get the same chance that I got when I had to face Kurt Angle, and I got my shot and I got noticed. Like, it's his idea to create this format for this upcoming Saturday night's main event that we're going to get. And I think that that's really cool and really amazing. And as much as some of his humility comes across a little bit a little bit intense sometimes, I do think that this is part of who he is, and he really genuinely does want to give back to the business. And that's what this should all be about. A lot of wrestlers lose their way when it comes to giving back to the business, especially later in their careers. And I don't think he's done that. And he has said, I'm done. Like, I've given everything I have in this last year, and I'm done. And I don't want to quit. I'm not quitting because I want to. I'm quitting because I have to. And it's humble. It's another really, it's a cool thing to say that you were a part of, is to be able to witness this in real time, because it just never happened for our heroes. Like Hulk Hogan wrestled until he couldn't walk anymore, and Ric
Oh
Flair, God knows, he's
God.
probably still fucking wrestling somewhere. And it keeps going. But John Cena's the guy. I believe he's the guy that's going to say, "Nope, I'm done. Thank you. Exit stage left." That's kind of where I am with that. But what about you? Where do you sit with all of this?
I I'm really going to miss John Cena. I have been a John Cena fan for a long time. If you remember, we've got pyramid pictures, and I'm wearing a John Cena I
Hmm.
mean, way
Same.
back in the day, before it was quote unquote cool to like John Cena.
Yeah.
In fact, I like John when most people hated him. He was a straight up white meat baby face that was like being pushed down our throats. I'm going to miss John Cena. I I will admit that when they first started referring to him as the GOAT, the greatest of all time, I had a hard time with that originally, and I have completely come around on it. John Cena is the greatest of all time.
Yeah.
I have no problem giving him that moniker. Are there people that are better at certain parts and pieces of the yeah,
Sure.
for sure.
Yeah.
But as a total package, shout out Larry Pafal, Lex Luger, as as a total package, John is the great. He is the greatest. I mean, talking on the mic, in the ring, out of the ring. And if you listen to that dude talk, like the human being John Cena, which is, I think Van Vliet said it, it's ironic that like that's his ring name and his real name. And so it's got to be really difficult for him to kind of split up the criticism and the praise. You know, are they praising the character, criticizing the man, you know, those kind of, but anyways, but if you listen to that guy talk, he seems to be a genuinely good human being,
Yeah.
like a guy that you would love to hang out with and talk with. I just looked it up. His birthday is April 77, so he's actually 48. He's younger than us.
Hmm.
I I I thought his heel turn was probably the greatest in wrestling history, with either Hogan, you know, 1A with Hogan, right?
Yeah.
The heel run I didn't really care for. I agree with you 100%. Listening to the Van Vliet interview put a lot of that stuff in a different perspective, and shed some different light on it that I hadn't really thought of before. Um, I really started thinking back to, I don't know that they could have given us any final opponent that we would have been happy with. Right. I know there's been a lot of conversation about, oh, it's going to be Gunther. Oh, it's going to be LA Knight, this, that, and everything. You know, those are the last two. I don't know that there's anybody that everybody would have been happy with, you know, short of Edge or Chris Jericho or The Rock or, you know, somebody like that. Um, and I think you're right. I think John understands what he kind of wanted to do on his way out. I think I saw a story today that bummed me out though. If it's true, it's the story was that they're going to open the show with that match versus main event it.
Oh, wow. I mean, they definitely shouldn't, but it wouldn't surprise me if they did. That's how they
Yeah.
opened the WrestlePalooza with Brock Lesnar. So,
So the only way I could see that potentially working, and it's a big risk for WWE if they do that. If they open the show with John and Gunther, because I think John's going to lose that match.
of course.
Right. And if you know, if Gunther, I think he's probably going to tap him out or put him to sleep or whatever. You know, are people going to tune out after that match? That's the risk they run. Now, I also don't think that they're going to go off the air on a downer. I think the last shot of Saturday night's main event is going to be John Cena in the ring, standing tall. You know, it's going to be a celebration versus, you know, him being asleep or tapped out or whatever. So, what do you think about this? What do you think about John? They go on first. He loses that match. That's his final match. He's done. But are they going to pay off The Rock at all? Do they bring The Rock
I've
out at the
I've been
end?
thinking about that. I don't think it will turn into any sort of physical thing, but I wouldn't be surprised if he comes out and there's some kind of stare down and then he offers a handshake and something like
Yeah.
that. I could see that absolutely happening. But that needs to happen in the ring, in my opinion. And
Hmm.
it would,
Yeah.
to your point, it would bury the rest of the show if that happened at the very beginning. So I sincerely hope that that's not the case. But it very well might be. I don't know. I would think even John Cena would know that he should wait till the end. Now, I guess the one thing to kind of keep in mind is this is a Saturday night's main event, so they are
Hmm.
going to be especially tight on time, right? So we know that the Saturday night's main event that happened earlier this year with Goldberg was a big fiasco because he
Yep.
got cut off in the middle of a speech and he was really pissed at the WWE, and they're like, "We can't do anything about it. Like this is syndicated television. This is NBC. Like it's not Netflix. It's not
Right.
ESPN. Like we can't just go as long as we want to. Like NBC is broadcasting this. It's not just on Peacock. It's on for anybody who has cable television. They're watching Saturday night's main event during this time. So um, I think they're going to be very tight on time and how all that stuff works. So maybe that's why they're putting it on first so they can kind of let that segment breathe and then they can tighten up everything else or squash another match if they need to
Makes
after
sense.
that. I don't know. I'm shotgunning right now, but I do think it's very possible that The Rock has a piece in this because he dodged those questions a lot in that Chris
Yeah.
Van Vliet interview. Like, well, what about The Rock? What about Travis Scott? And he's like, well, who cares? Like, well,
Right.
fucking everybody cares.
Right.
Like,
Everybody cares.
that was
Well,
that was a great storyline that just got completely dropped. It was like an alternate scene from a movie that just never got finished. And yeah, everybody cares about that. So I'm hopeful that they can find a way to tie that up somehow. But I don't know
yeah.
that I kind of doubt that they will. I almost think that Triple H at some point is going to pull Cena back out to the ring at the very end or something. Like he's going to be he already knows what's going to happen. I think Triple H already has a
Sure.
good handle on what's what the scope of the show is going to be, whether John knows it or not.
Hmm.
Uh, I think he's going to be heavily involved in what that looks like.
Yeah.
So we'll
I
see.
tell you what I'm really looking forward to is the next season of WWE Unreal
Oh
because
yeah,
I have a feeling it's going to be this entire John Cena the time is now tournament. It's going to be the rise and fall of Jey Uso. It's going to be like all of this stuff. And I'm really looking forward to that.
I kind of hope it has nothing to do with Cena, to be honest, because I feel
Really?
like the whole Cena retirement tour is its own documentary. I feel like it's its own piece somewhere because
Okay.
they could certainly dedicate an hour or 2 hours to just telling the story of what happened from January of this year, or going back in time to
Last
whenever
year.
it
Yeah.
was he announced his retirement to his last match, and all the behind the scenes, hugs and congratulatory comments and all that stuff. Like, I kind of think that if they wanted to, they could make an entire, I think they absolutely 100% should
Yeah.
make a dedicated documentary to that. And I think the Unreal stuff should focus on, Seth and Becky and maybe the return of Brock Lesnar and everything that was sort of the road to WrestleMania from last year. I
Okay.
think that's a real,
Yeah.
I mean, they could have certainly incorporate some of the John Cena stuff, but I really sincerely hope, and I'd be surprised if they didn't, um, because the WWE is such documentarians these days that they didn't put some effort into making a special dedicated package to that last year because it
Specifically for
is
that. Yeah.
unprecedented what he's doing right now
Yeah.
in the business of professional wrestling.
I will, and I don't think I said this. I will 100% agree with your take that John is done. I don't think he's going to wrestle again.
Yes,
I
I
do
would bet
think
everything on that.
yeah, I do think Saturday night is the last time we will see him as a wrestler. We'll see him
Yes.
again, but
Yeah.
I agree with you 100%. And I'll be honest with you, I love that. I
Yes.
love it.
It's
I love it
great.
I love it for John. I love it that somebody's going to say it and stick to it and make a retirement mean something because right now retirement in wrestling means absolutely nothing. And I think John probably sees that too, right? And
Yeah.
I think that's
Yeah.
part of
Yeah.
why he's going to do it. Yeah.
Yeah, in the immortal words of Kylo Ren, let the past die, kill it if you have to, right?
Mhm.
Like that we just need to embrace that a little bit more. It's okay when chapters end and we
Hmm.
move on to the next thing. And I think that John is a big believer in that because he wants to bring all these people into this, this show, all these new, like there's a bunch of NXT performers that are going to be on the show, and that's critical. That's so important to jumpstart or not jumpstart, but to pick this business up and carry it into the next
Into the
generation
next,
of
yeah.
whatever it's going to look like. So I'm super excited about it. I feel like I might be a little, maybe just a little emotional about it. Like
Oh yeah.
it's a pretty big deal, and I trust them to handle it the best way possible. I'll be honest; I'm a little disappointed that we probably won't see Chris Jericho or an Edge involved in any of this because those were both very prominent opponents. But I will say, on sort of a small tangent, you and I have talked about not watching a lot of the PLEs lately because they're all on ESPN. I went back in YouTube and watched the match that he had against AJ Styles at Crown Jewel.
So fucking good. So good.
Holy fucking hell. I don't know if it was good, but it was so much
Yeah.
fun. And it was such a beautiful homage to all these wrestlers of the past. But here's what I'll say about that, and a slight deviation as well. AJ Styles is going to retire in the next year, and I am suddenly very sad about that. I think I have missed the boat on AJ Styles. Like, I've always known him and appreciated him, but I don't think I ever really understood how important he was and how talented he was and how revered he is by so many of his peers. AJ Styles is fucking amazing. And I think that if I would have really been into wrestling as much as I was when I was a kid, I think he might be my favorite. Like, I think he legitimately might be the Jake the Snake or the Bret Hart of this generation because he's just that good. And it's a shame that he's to that point where he can't really do what he used to do. But I mean, you couldn't tell. Like, he's still performing at an absolute epic level. But it takes him more to work up to that and more to come back down from that. So I'm glad he's retiring. I'm hoping this John Cena thing sets a precedent for him and for many other wrestlers. And I hope he gets his flowers when he's done. But god damn, man, that guy is good. He's just really, really good. And that match was so much fun to watch with all the finisher spam and everybody doing everybody else's finisher. It was just so happy to watch that.
Yeah. Yeah. So he AJ Styles shares a birthday with Grayson. He's June 2nd. He's
Oh no shit.
77. Yeah. So
Birthday
he's
neighbors. Yeah.
yes. So he's 70. So he's 48. So he's the same age as John. A couple months older than John, younger rather. But yeah, I and here's why you probably missed AJ Styles. He wasn't in WWE most
Right.
of that time, right?
Yeah.
And God, yeah, he's so his. I know him from TNA
Yep.
and a
Yep.
little bit from Japan, which I know you don't follow or didn't at least back in the day. But yeah, I agree. AJ is awesome. I saw and I God, I wish I could give credit to wherever I saw this. Because it made a lot of sense and I could totally see it happening. So Gunther retired Goldberg in his last match.
Oh
He's
yeah, that's a
argued
good point.
he's arguably going to retire John Cena, and is he then going to come next for AJ Styles, which would be a pretty good kind of
Or
yeah.
or I think he'll come next for Randy Orton because
well
eventually Orton's
well
going out, and Orton was the legend killer.
exactly right. So
And
it's like
that's what
they're
Gunther's
yeah.
doing right now.
So there might be some really long term storytelling there. So
Yeah.
you've got you would have, and at that point you would have Goldberg, Cena, Styles, and then Randy
Yeah.
Orton. That'd be a really fun program actually to watch.
So let me ask you this. It's just sort of an off the cuff question. So Gunther is a bit of a controversial choice for some people to be
Hmm.
Cena's final opponent. Of all the other people that were in the tournament, would you have rather seen somebody else make it to the finals for John Cena to face? And I know that's a little tough to answer because you probably don't have all of those people off the top of your head. But I mean, you're talking about Solo Sikoa, you're talking about LA Knight, obviously made the finals of that. You had the Miz, which would have been great. You had the surprise returns of Dolph Ziggler, which was fucking amazing, and Zack
Yes.
Ryder, and a bunch of other people. Like, do you feel? Actually, let me take a step back before you answer that.
Yep.
Would you have booked somebody different than Gunther before the tournament even got announced? That's question one. And question two is, how do you feel about Gunther being the one that's in this match?
Sure. So both really good questions. I think I've been a big fan of Gunther since like his Intercontinental title day. Like I always really liked that character. I
Yeah, for
liked
sure.
he's kind of like the workman, like so I'm a big fan of Gunther. I was actually really disappointed with the way Jey Uso beat him at WrestleMania this last year. He made him tap out to his own
Mm,
sleeper hold, which I
yeah.
thought kind of made Gunther kind of look a little bit weak, which kind of bummed me out. That being said, that was a really great moment and a great way, if I remember correctly, to kick off night one of WrestleMania this year, where Jey won the title. That was kind of a really
Yeah,
cool way, but again, it
sure.
made Gunther look pretty weak. So if you're gonna retire John Cena, in my mind, you got to do it to somebody that can use that as a stepping stone to something greater, to kind of level them up as a character, for lack of a better term. So to that point, I think Gunther actually fits that bill. Now, Gunther's already been a world champion, but I think if and when he beats John, that takes him to the next level. He can live off the fact that he
Yeah.
retired John Cena for the next 10 years, if they want to. Um, would that be better served at somebody like Carmelo Hayes, or
Penta.
somebody, or Penta, or like, I don't think it makes a whole lot of sense for somebody like The Miz, right? Because The Miz is
Oh
arguably kind of
no.
on the back end of his career.
I would
you
love
know
to have seen the Miz wrestle Cena one more
right.
time,
Yeah.
because they have a nice history together, but
Mhm.
would have made zero sense for him to be in the
Yeah.
finals.
So I'm looking at the first round, which is everybody that's in the tournament, right? So it was Jey Uso and The Miz. So again, yeah,
Yeah.
okay. Rusev and Damian Priest.
Yeah.
Okay. Sheamus and Shinsuke. No, neither of those guys. LA Knight and Zack Ryder. Okay, I can make an argument for LA Knight, maybe. I'll put a pin in that. I want to come back to LA Knight.
Yeah. Let's do that.
Um, Penta and Finn Balor. I think Penta would get more out of that than Finn Balor, but I don't see either of those guys being quote unquote worthy of retiring John Cena in my mind. Solo Sikoa and Dolph Ziggler. It was awesome to see Ziggler, but he's not going to retire Cena. Solo, maybe. Gunther
Mm.
and Javon Evans, which was an amazing match. Javon Evans was great. And then you had Carmelo Hayes and Bronson Reed. So that was kind of like, that's the field. So to answer, I think, one of your questions, I'm actually okay with Gunther coming out of that field. I'm okay with him coming out, because I think of that field, with the exception of LA Knight, and again, they were in the finals, I'm okay with Gunther winning that field. Um, would I have booked somebody different, maybe, to the only person that I might have preferred, and again, it would be a pipe dream, would have been Edge. But
Yeah.
Edge is not really, that's the only one though in my mind that
Hmm.
that had a, or I take that back, or CM Punk. That would have been the
Oh,
only other
interesting.
one. That would have
So,
been the
like,
only other
as a
one.
rematch, or you're saying they never should have had them fight? What they do in Paris? Is that where they fought? The Clash in Paris?
It
No,
was
no,
either
no. They
Paris or
fought in
Perth.
Riyadh. No, it was in Riyadh because
Oh,
it
that's
was all
right.
the controversy around CM Punk and some of the
That's
comments he
right.
had made about the
He
Saudis and all that stuff.
I, well, I'll even take a one step further back. When Cena originally announced this year-long thing, I thought it was going to be Randy Orton.
Yeah.
I thought that would have, and then when he fought Randy in St. Louis, I can't remember what pay-per-view it was. I was like, well, shit, we just lost that.
Yeah.
And then when
Right.
and then when they went through Randy, I thought it was going to be Punk, because I look back at the I think it was Money in the Bank where they both had the spinner belts and Punk left the company after beating John. I thought that would have been a good one. But again, to my point earlier, Punk doesn't need that
No,
at this point in his career.
he's already
And
the
neither,
champ.
right, exactly. And neither
Yeah.
does Edge, and neither does Randy Orton. So like those would have been matches or outcomes that I would have liked to have seen. I think in terms of elevating somebody towards the future, I think Gunther actually does fit that bill. Um, I think those other guys certainly could use that, but I don't think they're quite there yet. It would feel, oh, you'll appreciate this reference. It would feel unearned the way it felt when Sheamus beat Cena for his world championship when he was like fucking super green. And we were
Yeah.
like, who is this guy? That's what it would feel like.
Yeah.
Um, so I guess that's a really long way of saying I'm actually okay with Gunther.
Yeah, I would agree. In fact, I'm looking at the bracket too, and now I'm looking at it thinking, well, Jesus, how did I ever think it would be anybody other than Gunther?
Anybody
I
but
mean,
Gunther, right? Yeah.
it doesn't like most of these names don't make sense. I think Penta was the one that I was thinking maybe just because they seem to be strapping a bit of a rocket to him, and I didn't think it would be Jey Uso because there's no benefit to that. God knows it wouldn't be Damian Priest or Rusev or Shitstain or any of
Yeah.
the returning guys like Zack Ryder and Ziggler who are not going to be back. I don't think anytime soon. LA Knight and Gunther make sense for a finals appearance, and then I mean you and I have talked about this many times. I don't get LA Knight. I just don't. I'm not behind him in terms of understanding why the public loves him so much and why he's potentially the next big thing. I don't understand it. Um, I think Gunther makes a lot of sense now that I'm looking at this, and this match will potentially elevate him to a new level. And I think that the WWE has to stand behind that, and they got to continue to push him as being like the next Andre the Giant or the next like uber heel
Mm-hmm.
that will ultimately just come in and lay waste to destruction. So like if Gunther wins this, then I have a hard time uh thinking that he won't be fighting for a title at WrestleMania, you know? Assuming he doesn't have one at that point. I'm shocked. Like, why would you waste his talent by having him beat, the quote unquote greatest of all time and
Mm-hmm.
then not carry that forward? Right. I don't know how or what that looks like, but if he's not fighting for a title at WrestleMania, I'll be shocked.
I agree. I agree. And I think we've touched on this in the podcast. The WWE has they've they've got a problem, and the problem is they're the top of their card is aging very
Yep.
quickly. They're
Yep.
getting old, and to your point, they need to really turn up the heat and build the kind of like the next generation of guys that are going to be gone, that are going to be carrying the company
Yeah.
when these guys are gone. So let me I'm just going to read off. I just googled real quick. So like I'm just going to rattle off some ages of some WWE superstars. So R-Truth, he's gone right now, 52 years old. Bobby
Jesus
Lashley,
Christ.
48. Brock Lesnar, 47. And this article is actually old, so he's 48. AJ Styles, 48. Natty Neidhart, 43. CM Punk, 47. Trish Stratus, 50. Edge, 52. And again, not all of these people are WWE right now.
Sure. Sure.
Sheamus, 47. Randy Orton, 45. Rey Mysterio, 51. Dolph Ziggler, 44. The Miz, 45. Kofi Kingston, 44. You got to get down to like even Seth Rollins, 39. Roman Reigns, 40. You know, that they're getting old, right? And they
Yeah.
really need, even Kevin Owens, 41, Shinsuke,
Ugh.
45. You know what I mean? So my point is anything they can do to build that next beast, right? Whether it's Gunther, whether it's somebody like Braun Breaker, who I think is going to retire, arguably the greatest combat sporting guy we've ever seen in Brock Lesnar. I think that's what's going to happen. I think
Mm,
Breaker is going to beat him, right?
maybe, yeah.
Um, but they need to get people that we care about moving forward after
Right.
Cena, Punk, Jericho, Edge. That like after these guys are gone, we need to care. And I
Yeah.
think and I think having Gunther beat Cena is one more thing that's going to make us care. Whether we love him or hate him, either way, they don't care. But we're going to care.
Right. Well, I hate to say this,
So,
but Gunther is 38 years old. So he's not a spring chicken
no.
by any means. And there is a generation of these guys that are in their late 30s, early 40s that are going to go away sometime soon.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of them are, dealing with injuries and kind of struggling through all that stuff. I mean, Kevin Owens, obviously is dealing with some major neck issues and things like that. Cody Rhodes, I don't know how old he is, but I bet he's in his 40s right now.
Let's Google real quick here. Cody
40. He is
Rhodes.
exactly
Yeah,
40
there you
years
go.
old. So,
So
yeah, you're right. They need some more 20-year-olds out there. They need
yeah,
more Carmelo Hayes and well, Penta's not young, is he? He's been around for a while, I feel like.
yeah,
He's
he's new to
42.
the
He's 40 as well. Yeah, so
yeah
he's not new. So,
yeah.
yeah.
Um, so let's see. Two real quick things, and then we
Yeah.
can wrap this one up here.
Sure, sure.
So who do you think we see? Do you think we see any surprises in the Royal Rumble?
Ooh.
Because it's not that far away,
Right.
right? And the second question is, who do you think will be holding the two top titles heading into WrestleMania
Oh,
this year?
damn.
And
That's a great question.
if you want to expand to the women's, we could say the four top titles.
Mhm.
So
Okay.
surprises at the Rumble and four top titles.
So I do, I mean, as of now, and of course a lot can
Sure,
change.
shit changes. Yeah.
As of now, I do think we'll see Chris Jericho in the Royal Rumble. I do
Okay.
think we'll see him back in the WWE. I've no reason to back that up with anything. I just feel like he deserves and should be uh, entitled to a final run on the biggest stage of them all before he retires, and he's
Yep.
obviously very close to that age as well. I would be very surprised if we didn't see Joe Hendry in the Royal Rumble as well. Now, I don't
Okay.
know if that's going to be a surprise or not, because I do believe, at least I thought I heard that he signed a contract with the
He did.
WWE.
He did. He is a full-time NXT wrestler at this point. Yes,
Right.
that is correct.
So, maybe that won't be a surprise, but as far as like things that we don't know for sure, I think that is very possible. As
Mm-hmm.
far as the two titles, so the two titles right now are being held by Cody Rhodes
Mm-hmm. And
and
CM Punk.
CM Punk. I I do think that Cody Rhodes will have that title all the way to WrestleMania. I don't think he's going to lose that. I do think that CM Punk is going to lose that title before WrestleMania. Um, I don't have a I don't know who it's going to be though. I'm not sure. It wouldn't surprise me if it was somebody from the Vision though, whether it's Braun
Well,
Breaker or whether it's somebody
he
else.
he's slated to wrestle. Um, he is
He's
wrestling
wrestling
Braun
Punk.
Break. He's wrestling Braun Breaker January 5th. I don't know what event that is, but they've already announced it.
Uh,
Is that
it might
the
be
next maybe the next Saturday Night main event? Maybe.
maybe it's that, or maybe it's some sort of a. like that's about a year since Netflix jumped in there, right? So maybe that's some sort of a
Oh, the
special
last
Monday
Raw.
Raw
Yeah.
of the year or so.
Okay.
I don't know. But it would not surprise me if Braun Breaker took that belt off of Punk. Um, it also would not surprise me if Seth Rollins jumped back into the picture at some point. I mean, who's to say and who knows who is actually hurt and who is not anymore after that last swerve that Seth
Yeah.
Rollins did with his knee and all that stuff. So I do think that Seth is legitimately injured, but also no telling the severity or how long he'll be out. So it wouldn't surprise me if he came back and did that. Although he's not part of that group anymore, he's not part of the vision. So,
Right.
um, so yeah, I guess I don't know if that's a great answer, but I do think it's going to be Cody, and I do think it's going to be anybody but CM Punk. I do think he's going to lose that belt before he gets to WrestleMania. As far as
Okay.
the women go, where are we at with the women? So we've got
Stephanie Vakir.
Stephanie Vaquer will most certainly lose the title before WrestleMania.
Okay.
I think.
And who is the other champion? Oh, Jade Cargill.
Um, I kind of feel like she might lose it too, but I don't know who. I I don't have a good sense for who will be in those programs. I mean, I think Liv Morgan's going to line herself up for something.
Yeah.
She might be lining herself up for a tag team title
Okay.
though, because I
Okay.
think that for whatever reason, since she came back, she's been very heavily engaged in the Judgment Day. Could be Rhea Ripley also.
Yeah.
She's not done yet by any means. I wouldn't hate Charlotte Flair to be honest if her and Alexa broke out of that tag team and Charlotte kept going for
Okay.
more titles. But I don't know. That's kind of tough. What about you?
Okay.
What do you think? Do you agree, disagree? Where do you see
I
everybody?
I think I agree with you on I think I agree with you on Cody. I think we're gonna get Cody and Roman again
That's
at
what everybody's
WrestleMania,
saying.
which I don't particularly want to see, but I'd be okay with that if that makes any sense. Um, I would really like to see Punk hold that title. I think I tend to agree with you. I think maybe Breaker's gonna beat him, but
Yeah. He
I
doesn't need it. Punk doesn't
no
need it.
he
He's
does
so fucking over. It
yeah
doesn't
he
matter to him.
here's why I think Breaker might not beat him, because I genuinely think that Braun Breaker is going to be the one that retires Brock Lesnar, and they're saying that's going to be in SummerSlam. So
Hmm.
I could see them building that for 7 or 8 months. And if you're going to retire Lesnar, you definitely don't need the title. You know what I'm saying? Um, I don't know. I'm just kind of thinking like,
I mean, Gunther's not out of it, right?
no, he's definitely not. I mean, I could totally see Gunther coming back.
Hmm.
What the other thing that I could see at WrestleMania, I could see them set up a program between Punk, Roman, and Cody for like a winner take all undisputed championship kind of thing.
Sure. Yeah,
I
that'd be
could I
cool.
could see I so in that scenario to my original question, Punk and Cody would hold the titles up until then, and then in that scenario I think Roman wins both of them.
I think he walks away with at least one title.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
would agree with that.
So
He's not done with his reign yet. And I
no,
think he'll
he's not.
come out and whatever happens there, I think Roman will come out the baby face and Cody will come out the heel. I
Oh,
think
1,000%.
that's going to happen
A
eventually. It
thousand.
might as well happen at WrestleMania.
I was gonna say I don't think it will happen there. I think Cody will go into that match as the heel. I don't think it's gonna be like
Oh,
a
wow. Okay.
yeah.
You think they're
I
going to
think
turn him before then?
100%. I think Cody.
Yeah.
I think the Cody face run is almost over. I think it's
Okay.
almost over. Yeah.
Yeah. They're
So.
sowing the seeds, so you're probably right.
All right. Well, hey, for an episode where we had nothing really planned, this was pretty fucking awesome. I have to
Uh,
say.
Absolutely. It was
Right?
one of our better ones, I
Yeah.
think. I'm biased.
Yes. So let's see. We probably will not talk before Christmas. So to our listeners, happy holidays, Merry Christmas. Hopefully, maybe we can get one in before the new year, but if not, the happiest of New Year's, right?
We may be able to squeak one in. We may be able to.
Yes. I know for sure I'll talk to you because I talk to you about almost every day, so I don't need to say any of those things to you.
Yes.
But to our listener, Dad, Larry, thanks for hanging in here. It's good to see you. Anything else? Are we good to go?
I think we're good. Let's wrap this up.
All right. That being said, that's Mr. Pip. I'm Chewie, and this has been the 411 from 406. Aloha.
Adios.